I want you to think about something. Every time you've ever heard rock and roll, every guitar riff, every electric chord, every distorted note that made you feel something, that sound has a mother, a creator, a woman who invented it before the men the history books credit even picked up a guitar. Elvis Presley, he learned from her. Chuck Berry, he spent his entire career imitating her, and he said so himself. Little Richard, her. Jerry Lee Lewis, her. Keith Richards, her. The entire British invasion that changed music forever. It existed because of her. And yet, when she died in 1973, this woman was buried in an unmarked grave, no headstone, no recognition, as if she had never existed at all. Her name was Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and today we're going to make sure you never forget it. Now let's go back to March 20th, 1915. In Cotton Plant, Arkansas, a baby girl is born to Katie Bell Newman and Willis Atkins. Her father was not present in her life, but her mother was everything. Katie Bell Newman was a singer, a medallion player, a travel evangelist for the Church of God in Christ. She was a woman of deep faith and deep talent, and from the moment her daughter could walk, she was raised in the middle of that music. At 4 years old, little Rosetta picked up a guitar and began playing, not streaming, playing, performing, singing. By 6 years old, she and her mother were traveling the South and touring as a part of an evangelist troupe, playing in churches, revival tents, and in any space that would have them. Imagine being 6 years old and already being a performer, already moving audiences, already feeling something in music that most people spend their whole lives searching for. She was born for this, and the world wasn't ready for her yet. In the 1920s, she and her mother settled in Chicago, and Chicago changed everything because Chicago in the 1920s was alive with jazz and blues, sounds that were raw and electric and powerful. Now Rosetta absorbed all of it. She began blending what she heard in the streets and the clubs with what she felt in the church. Gospel, blues, jazz, all of it fused together in one extraordinary young woman. That fusion she was created in the 1920s and 1930s, that sound had no name yet. But we know it today. We call it rock and roll. But before we talk about the fame, I need you to tell you about the pain. Because Sister Rosetta Tharpe's story is not just a triumph, it is a testament, and testaments are built through suffering. At just 19 years old, Rosetta was forced into an arranged marriage with an older preacher named Thomas Tharpe. This was not a true love. It was an abusive relationship that she eventually found the courage to leave. But here is what I want you to notice. When she walked away from that marriage, she kept his name, not out of loyalty to him, but because she had already begun building something under that name, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and nobody was going to take that away from her. She took what was painful and turned it into power. That name, the name of the man who hurt her, became one of the most legendary names in the history of American music. And this is not just a music story, this is a human story. So then we go forward a little bit into 1938. Sister Rosetta Tharpe left her marriage and moved to New York City with her mother. And New York City in 1938 was the center of the world. Within months of arriving, she was performing at the Cotton Club, the most famous nightclub in America, alongside Cab Calloway. She was 23 years old then. A black woman from Arkansas playing electric guitar at the Cotton Club. Let that picture just resonate in your mind. That same year, October 31st, 1938, she recorded for the first time with Deacon Records 4 sides, gospel songs, and they were instant hits. Overnight, she became one of the first commercially successful gospel recorded artists in American history. Also that year, she performed at Carnegie Hall, one of the most prestigious concert venues in the world, as part of the groundbreaking concert called From Spirituals to Swing, a concert celebrating Black music at Carnegie Hall in 1938. Now, in 1940, she had a hit on both the gospel charts and the popular Harlem Hit Parade at the same time. gospel and secular music. The church crowd loved her, the nightclub crowd loved her, and that tension between the sacred and the secular would define her entire career. The church called blues and jazz the devil's music, but Sister Rosetta Tharpe refused to choose. She played in churches and nightclubs and Carnegie Hall because she knew the spirit moved wherever it wanted to move. Now, I need to talk to you about this guitar because people do not understand what Sister Rosetta Tharpe was doing on that instrument. She was playing electric guitar with a heavy, distorted, overdriven sound in the late 1930s and early 1940s. She achieved this by turning her amplifier all the way up and attacking the strings with force, the dirty, the raw, distorted tone. She invented it, and every rock guitarist who came after her, Chuck Berry, Keith Richards, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, they all built their sound on the foundation she created. Chuck Berry's famous Johnny B. Good riff, the most recognized guitar riff in rock history, is a direct descendant of Sister Rosetta Tharpe's boogie woogie guitar style, a direct descendant. And Chuck Berry, he knew it when he was introduced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986. He said, and I want you to really hear this, he said, "My whole career has been one long Sister Rosetta Tharpe impersonation." Can you get that? The man who is credited as one of the founding fathers of rock and roll said his entire career was an imitation of a Black woman that history forgot to mention. And Sister Rosetta Tharpe, she was not humble about it either. When people compare her to male guitarists, she would say, "I love this." She would say, "Can't no man play like me. I play better than a man." And she was right. In October 2023, Rolling Stones magazine ranked the 250 greatest guitarists of all time. Sister Rosetta Tharpe came in at number 6, above most of the men who claim to have invented the sound she created. In 1944, Sister Rosetta Tharpe recorded a song called "Strange Things Happening Every Day." Music scholars have called this song the first rock and roll record ever made. Let me say this again. The first rock and roll record ever made was made by a Black woman named Sister Rosetta Tharpe in 1944. It hit number 2 on the Billboard Records chart in 1945. It was the first gospel song to cross over into R&B top 10. It was years ahead of everything that came after it. And in 1951, one full year before the concert that is usually called the first rock and roll concert ever, Sister Rosetta Tharpe performed in front of 20,000 people in a baseball stadium in Washington, D.C., playing amplified electric guitar with fireworks going off around her. And oh, that show was her wedding. She turned her third marriage into a 20,000 person concert and had the whole thing recorded and released as an album. Now, can you get that? Nobody was doing what Sister Rosetta Tharpe was doing. Nobody. She was ahead of her time. She was the time, and the history moved on without giving her credit at all. And let's go back into the 1950s. Rock and roll was exploding in America, but the people getting credit for it were mostly white men. And Sister Rosetta Tharpe, the woman who built the foundation they were standing on, was being pushed to the margins. So in 1957, she did something remarkable. She took her music to Europe. She began one of the very first American artists to bring gospel and blues sounds across the Atlantic Ocean. And in Europe, particularly in England, young musicians heard her for the first time. Young musicians named Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, they watched Sister Rosetta Tharpe perform. They heard that sound, that distorted electric guitar, that raw spiritual power, that voice that sounded like it came from somewhere beyond this world. And those young British musicians went home and created the British blues scene, which became the British Invasion, which gave us the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, The Who, and Eric Clapton, among more. Think about it. Just think about what that means. Without Sister Rosetta Tharpe, there's no Rolling Stones, there's no Led Zeppelin, no British Invasion. The entire landscape of rock music as we know it today does not exist without a Black woman from Cotton Plant, Arkansas. And most people have never heard her name. That is not an accident. That is an erasure. As the 1960s came in, popular music shifted. Younger audiences moved in. Sister Rosetta Tharpe continued performing, but the world no longer paid attention to what they once had. In 1970, she had a stroke, then diabetes took hold. And in 1973, one of her legs was amputated as a result of her health complications. On October 9th, 1973, Sister Rosetta Tharpe died in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She was 58 years old. The woman who invented rock and roll, the woman Chuck Berry said his entire career was built on imitating, the woman who influenced Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Johnny Cash, Tina Turner, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, and more. The woman who performed at Carnegie Hall and the Cotton Club and for 20,000 people at her own wedding concert. She was buried in an unmarked grave. No headstone, no marker, just a patch of earth in a Philadelphia cemetery, as if she never existed. That unmarked grave tells us everything we need to know about how the country was historically and how it treated Black women who dared to create, dared to innovate, and dared to be great. But this story does not end here, and it does not end at that unmarked grave, because the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how long it takes. In 1998, the United States Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp in her honor, a small acknowledgement but something. In 2007, a full biography called Shout, Sister Shout was finally published, telling her complete story. And when it was published, she was still in the unmarked grave. The author wrote about it because she felt it symbolized everything wrong about how her story had been told. In 2017, a stretch of Highway 17 in Arkansas from Cotton Plant to Brinkley was renamed the Sister Rosetta Tharpe Memorial Highway, her home state finally claiming her. In 2018, 45 years after her death, Sister Rosetta Tharpe was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When singer Brittany Howard stepped to the mic to induct her, she simply said, and powerfully, "It's long overdue." In 2022, a mural honoring her was dedicated in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas. So she has a lot more going on, even though she's passed away. So much more is coming of her story. Our feature film is coming in the works as well. And so justice is slowly arriving, but it's arriving. So I don't want to leave you in grief, because Sister Rosetta Tharpe's life was not a tragedy. It was a triumph that the world was too small to fully contain. This woman started performing at the age of 4 years old. She toured the South at 6. She played Carnegie Hall at 23. She recorded the first rock and roll record at 29. She performed for 20,000 people at her own wedding at 36. She inspired the British invasion at 42. She never stopped creating. She never stopped performing. She never compromised who she was. She played gospel in nightclubs and blues in churches and electric guitar in a world that told Black women to stay quiet and stay small. And she refused. Every single day of her life, she refused. The artists she influenced were like a who's who of American music, from Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Tina Turner, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, and more. Every single one of them, she touched them all. She was the original soul sister, the queen of hot gospel, the godmother of rock and roll, the number 6 greatest guitarist in history according to Rolling Stones magazine, the woman who created a sound that became the soundtrack of the 20th century. And she was a Black woman from Cotton Plant, Arkansas, who started with nothing but a guitar and a mother who believed in her. This is Black excellence. This is Black history. The next time someone tells you that a Black woman has not shaped the world, tell them about Sister Rosetta Tharpe. The next time someone tries to erase Black history, tell them about Sister Rosetta Tharpe. The next time a little girl is told that rock and roll is not for her, tell her about Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who picked up a guitar at 4 years old and changed the world forever. She rested in an unmarked grave for years, but she is not forgotten anymore. Not on this channel, not today. If this video moved you, share it, because the best way to honor Sister Rosetta Tharpe is to make sure her name reaches every corner of the world. And I just want to also add that Sister Rosetta Tharpe is no longer in an unmarked grave. She does have a headstone in Philadelphia. So if you're ever in Philadelphia, please go visit her and just pay your respects. But other than that, just please remember her name and what she did for the world. And as again, just remember to, if you like this video, please like and share. And also just definitely share because I want to get Sister Rosetta Tharpe names out there more. But thank you so much for watching this video. And I do appreciate you and have a great day. Thank you.